Hey, Leander homeowners. I'm Eric Peterson, broker and listing agent with Kopa Real Estate. I've also been a Leander homeowner since 2019. In this video, we're going to be covering the most recent real estate statistics for Leander, Texas. I'll be talking about the dog days of summer, why 79% of realtors haven't sold a home year to date, whether you should rent or sell your property, and how recent appraisal changes might impact your future home sale. All right, let's get into the statistics for July of 2026 in Leander, Texas. There are 135 homes that sold. Currently, there's 692 active single-family homes on the market with 163 homes under contract. The average dollars per square foot in July was $585,077 with an average dollars per square foot of $212, and the days on the market was 51 days. The highest price home that sold in Leander in July was for $1,970,000. So we are in the dog days of summer. This is August 2026, and the real estate market always slows down at this time of the year. So a lot of realtors are freaking out. I could have told you the real estate market was going to slow down back on January 1st because it always does. And that's why this statistic is really important to you if you're thinking about selling your property. As most recent National Association of Realtors statistics at 79% of realtors had not sold a house year to date. Now, I'm the first to tell you that this statistic is a little bit misleading because many people who are a realtor, members of the National Association of Realtors, may not actually even sell real estate. So they could be appraisers, they could be office managers, they could have retired and maybe still have their license and still be a member. But the statistic is alarming. And what it means is that when you get into these dog days of summer and the rest of the year and even next year, it's incredibly important that you have somebody that isn't going to freak out, that's on your side. And what I see is looking at the realtor Facebook groups and locally and nationally, is you see tons of realtors that are freaking out. And it's typical if you sell 0 homes or sell 1 or 2 houses a year, you're not going to recognize some of that seasonality in the market and you're going to freak out. And if I freak out, then I'm going to cause you to freak out, and your freaking out is going to cause you to make bad decisions. And this all starts with who the listing agent is that you decide that you're going to hire to sell your property. So remember these statistics, and it's something that you can always check. You can go on anybody's Zillow account and check and see their activity and see if they're actually selling homes, so you don't wind up in the situation where all of a sudden your home's been on the market for 30 days and your realtor's not communicating with you because they don't know what to say to you. They don't know how to take you through a successful closing when the market is slower in the summer environment, right? So one other thing that you should think about if you're planning on selling your house, there are 7 crucial mistakes that I'm seeing home sellers make in the market right now. And I'm going to be talking about them at our upcoming home selling webinars. So you don't even have to leave your house to come to one of our in-person home selling seminars. You can learn everything you need to know about a successful home sale. Sign up today. There's multiple days and times available. Sign up at kopawebinar.com. One of the biggest mistakes that I see home sellers make right now and realtors make right now is when they're preparing the home for sale or thinking about selling the house is thinking about who is going to be the buyer for my home. And this is kind of a funny story, but it illustrates the point. So a guy called me and he's thinking about selling his house, but he's very worried. He says the only people that are buying a home or who can afford to buy a home are Indians. And this is a $400,000 house. So a lot of people can buy that house. But I will tell you that we're in a kind of a strange market where it feels like nobody can afford to buy a $400,000 house, but everybody has cash to buy a $1.4 million house. And that's an important thing to think about. The other thing that he said is that it was an older house. And so a lot of people call me and they're freaking out. They're like, I have an older house. Nobody's going to buy it because it's an older house. And I always ask, well, what are you going to do? Wait another year? How does that help you? And so he says that, there's only Indians that are buying the house. And he says Indians all want to buy new homes. And so this is all kind of a humorous situation. I don't know what's going to happen to him. I didn't want to list a house for sale. But to his credit, he's one of the few people that actually thinks about this and thinks about who is the buyer profile of my home, because it should be instructive in terms of how are we going to prepare your home for sale. And a lot of the questions that people ask me, do I need to do this? Should I do that? Really are further down than from that situation where you're trying to determine who is the actual buyer for your home. So you might not want to be thinking about it from the standpoint of like only Indians are going to buy my house, or Indians aren't going to buy my house because it's an older house. But you do want to think about who is that buyer. It's what I think about when I'm giving somebody advice about what we're going to do for somebody's home sale. Now I want to talk about whether you should rent or sell your house. And I'm not really going to answer that question, but give you kind of a framework of something that you could do. A lot of realtors are afraid of using AI and ChatGPT, and I'm really getting into it and enjoying it quite a bit. And I use it, I think, as a way to slow any kind of like future cognitive decline, is learning how to use this, just like somebody might learn how to talk in a foreign language. Right? And so this is something that you can do. Say, who is the world's greatest investor? I'm guessing most people would say Warren Buffett. So I decided, after getting a bunch of people calling me and asking if they should rent or sell their home, I was thinking, when people are asking me a lot of these questions, I go to AI because I know the person asking me this question is going to AI to look it up themselves. So I want to see what information they're getting. And I thought I would just throw it into ChatGPT. And with a prompt is, pretend like you're Warren Buffett and somebody came to you with the question of whether you should rent or sell your house, because nobody cares about what Eric Peterson says. It doesn't really matter. What do I say? I don't have the same authority that Warren Buffett has, but this is something that you should pay attention to. I'm probably going to do a whole video on this because the actual text that he gave me was incredible. And it's what I'm going to send to people when they ask me whether they should rent or sell their house, because these are all things that they should be looking at. What's at work today? What would I actually net by selling? What's the true rental return, right? Most people are just doing some quick math, which isn't the way that they want to do it. What's my opportunity cost? This is the question I always ask people. What else could you do with your money? And I don't know, this is like a big thing that stumps people because they've just, I don't know what else they're investing their money in. And some of the other things that he talks about, that what he wouldn't count on is he wouldn't really count on future appreciation. That isn't part of how he was making that decision. And so in this little graphic, he's got rent or sell. Get in touch with me if you really want to see this information. I'll send you the whole thing. Of course, I'm willing to have a brief conversation with anybody about it. I found that most people have already made up their mind when they're calling me about this. And frankly, it's kind of like if I was a pizza shop and you're calling me and saying, hey, should I eat pizza tonight or Chinese food? I sell pizza, so I sell houses. And so somebody's calling me and asking if they should rent or sell the house. We sell houses. So I just put that out there. But if you want to do, you could just put on your own situation and put it in ChatGPT and see what Warren Buffett would tell you about your own situation. And it's probably more instructive than anything that I could tell you myself. And finally, I wanted to talk to you about recent appraisal changes. So appraisers are going to have to use, for Fannie Mae loans, are going to have to use a new form now. And this may take longer for them to be producing their appraisal. We're brand new with all of this as well, but there's extra details that the appraisers may be asking me and you as a home seller for. So why this is important is that you may not be selling your house for 5 years, but you want to be keeping that information about updates that you've done for your house, because the appraisers will be asking specific information about, when was it done? How much money was spent? What were the materials that were being done? And you should really have this information anyway, just for me to be able to tell buyers about that. But it's going to be super important as far as making sure that we maximize the appraisal value of your house, because the appraisers may have more details now of another property. And if we don't give that same detail to the appraiser about your property, your home might appraise for less than what it should. So remember, we're always on your side. We'll walk you through all of this. But I can't go back and 5 years later be putting together all the paperwork for you. So you really want to put that in, a shoebox or a filing cabinet somewhere that's safe, so that when we get around and listing your house, you have it easily accessible for us so that we can provide it to buyers and make sure we're providing it to appraisers also. So if you like this information, you want to see more local real estate news, subscribe to our channel. And as always, if we can help you, contact me directly or schedule a time on my calendar at kopaconsultation.com.